Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. November 13th, 2017.
I don't know Miss Corpman from anybody. I've never talked to her, never had any contact with her. Allegations of sexual misconduct with her are completely false. I believe they're politically motivated. I believe they're brought only to stop a very successful campaign, and that's what they're doing. I've never known this woman or anything.
Mitch McConnell is a useless snake. Let me just say this right out of the gate. So now he's calling for Roy Moore to step aside. He is, as I said, a McManiac, John Kasich, Mr. Tourette's. All of them now are pushing for Roy Moore to step aside. All the Democrats are now saying Roy Moore is unfit to hold office after the hit piece in the Washington Post. No evidence whatsoever. None. A simple he said, she said, with a lot of evidence against her, to be honest. And you want this good man to step aside because of one allegation? Completely and utterly unproven? How much more craven, cowardly, and despicable can you get? So you couldn't beat Roy Moore in the primary because he cleaned the clock of Luther Strange, your rhino-backed candidate. And so now you're using the Post and the Democrats to take this guy out and essentially ensure a Democratic victory. You want to see how much they want to preserve the swamp? This is how far they're willing to go. They're even willing to lose their own majority. Because even if they're in the minority, they still get paid. They still get to continue to work with the lobbyists and the special interests and the Chamber of Commerce. Don't worry, they all still walk out millionaires and gazillionaires. But God forbid you should get a real honest constitutionalist, a real conservative, a real law and order guy to come in there and just drain and clean out that cesspool that is Washington. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, the Washington Post, the mortal enemy of Republicans, says this 14-year-old, who, by the way, has been saying that pastors have been accusing her, who was admitted a drug addict at the time, an alcoholic at the time, no evidence whatsoever, says, yeah, he touched her inappropriately. So listen now, the drumbeat began over the weekend, okay? This is why now McConnell has basically caved and said Roy Moore needs to go. By the way, the Senate Republican Committee has cut off all financing to Roy Moore. So they're going to starve him of funds. So you want to know why McManiac and Mitch DeSquish and Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and Jeff Flake and John Kasich and all of them now have come out and said, oh, no, you got to go. You got to step aside. Listen now to Matthew Dowd, a former Bushie, on, I believe it's ABC's This Week, saying for the good of the Republican Party, listen to this, they have to unite and back the Democrat Doug Jones in Alabama against Roy Moore. Roll it, Brittany.
If they want to go forward and somehow take on Roy Moore here, you have the establishment going once again up against the Steve Bannon wing.
Or they could,
do they want to do another round?
They could back the Democratic candidate, who, from everybody's reporting, is a guy of integrity, and they could put party aside and back the Democratic candidate against the pedophile.
You think chances are that?
I always hope that people put country over party, but it doesn't seem to.
Yeah.
This is incredible. Now it's country over party. Now, did you catch that one? Roy Moore now is a pedophile. He's a pedophile. Excuse me? Convicted by who? I'm sorry, what judge and jury? What evidence? Except the slanderous defamation of one woman. But now listen to Mad Dog Larry O'Donnell. He was on MSNBC doing his usual shtick. So listen now to the Mad Dog. Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Listen now to Mad Dog Larry O'Donnell. Roll it, Brittany.
If these allegations are true, and how will Mitch McConnell decide if they are true? Will he question Roy Moore about it? He has the power to do that. Will he bring Roy Moore right back to Washington to sit with his potential future Republican colleagues and allow those colleagues to question him about this so that Republican senators won't have to continue to shame themselves by association with this accused pedophile? Will Mitch McConnell do that? If these allegations are true. The election is a month away. What are you going to do, Mitch McConnell? Are you going to wait for Roy Moore to become a Republican senator and then have the Senate Ethics Committee investigate him and then expel him? Here is more detail about what Lee Korfman told the Washington Post.
And he goes on about the fondling and the touching and blah, 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 blah. My question is this. What about Bill Clinton? I'm saying this now to Mad Dog Larry, to the Washington Compost, to the New York Slimes, to Matthew Dowd, to the entire liberal mainstream establishment. What about Bubba? None of you ever demanded that he step down. Where were you, Larry? Mad Dog, where were you? You were defending Bubba. Well, let's be clear about Bubba. Bubba raped Juanita Broaddrick. In fact, we know he raped Juanita Broaddrick because immediately after the incident, a witness came into the room. Bill Clinton had just left the room and saw the massive swelling on Juanita Broaddrick's mouth and that her clothes were completely torn. And she said to her on the spot, "I just got raped by Bill Clinton." But you called her a piece of trash, Larry. How about Kathleen Willey, who right away came out and said, the president grabbed me by the throat, slammed my head against the wall, and sexually assaulted me, raped me in the Oval Office? Where were you, Mad Dog? How about Paula Jones, who listed the day and the time it occurred, and Bill Clinton had to pay a freaking settlement, saying either service me or you lose your job? I could go on because this went all the way back to Cambridge when he was a young man. How come he wasn't supposed to step down? Notice when it came to Bubba and Bill Clinton, all of these Democrats, it's unproven. It's just sex. Listen, it's already been looked at. Nothing to it. So, when a Democrat is accused, turn the page, look the other way. But when it comes to a Republican, especially a conservative Republican, an outsider, an insurgent, a Trump conservative, whoa. You want to talk pedophilia? Let's talk pedophilia, Mad Dog Larry. When during the election campaign, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were going on private jets with Jeffrey Epstein's Fantasy Island, as it was called, an admitted pedophile. He admitted it. There's nothing to discuss. Where he was having sex with underage men and boys. You didn't call out Hillary there, Mad Dog. Mad Dog, you weren't upset about all the alleged pedophilia then, Mad Dog. But when it comes to Roy Moore, he can't sit in the Senate. We need a Senate Ethics Committee. This man is not fit to be in office. The disgusting hypocrisy and double standards. So I'm gonna tell the libs, this is now you're gonna reap what you've sown. For years you defended Bill Clinton, and you defended his chief enabler Hillary Clinton because she defended him. She hired investigators to smear and go after those women. She empowered Bill Clinton and defended him every step of the way. And you voted for her and you voted for him. I'm sorry now. You guys crossed that Rubicon. You decided to play this game. You know what? If Bill Clinton's not guilty, Roy Moore's not guilty. If Bill Clinton can serve 2 terms in office as president, Roy Moore can sit in the Senate for as long as he wants. What's good enough for Bill Clinton is now good enough for Roy Moore. You phony, you frauds, you. And you want to see the extent of how much they fear Roy Moore? Mad Dog Larry O'Donnell, stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Gave it away. Listen now to Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat from Minnesota. By the way, she's already cleared this with Mitch McConnell. It's coming. So even if Roy Moore manages to pull off a miracle and defeat all of the vast forces arrayed against him, he beats big technology, he beats the media, he beats the Democrats, he beats the Republican establishment. They're not going to seat him. Listen now to this. They're going to concoct a kangaroo court and then have a phony investigation of Roy Moore and kick him out of the Senate. So in other words, we're not going to sit this guy no matter what. Even if he wins the election, we're going to nullify the election. Roll it, Brit.
We may not have much choice on that, but we do have choice on something else, and that is that you can expel a senator once they're in with 2/3 of the vote after the Ethics Committee, as happened in the past, does an investigation. But there's a step between here, Chuck, and that is that there is an alternative candidate in Doug Jones, former U.S. attorney, great prosecutor, someone who's running on trust with the voters and also health care in Alabama and the real issues that are going to affect the people of that state. So the polls are tightening there, and while it is incredibly important to go after these past allegations, I want people to remember that, in fact, there's another alternative here to Roy Moore, who was removed from the Alabama Supreme Court because he wasn't following the law.
But you're in favor of starting the expulsion process, potentially, if he is elected?
You better believe it.
That's one way we could do it, but the other way is for the people of Alabama to look at these two candidates. And yes, I have faith that they're going to look at what happened in these...
That's it. I don't need any more. Okay, I don't want to listen to her BS anymore. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, you can't even say that, by the way. I'm going to get to that story later. That's offensive. I swear. Ladies and gentlemen is now offensive. Because if you're transgendered, you don't identify as a lady or a gentleman, okay? But I'll get to that a little bit later. So anyway, let me be offensive. Ladies and gentlemen, the fix is in. That's what they're saying. They're openly stealing this election. They're saying, okay, look, so we've whipped up these charges against the guy. We're going to smear the hell out of him. We're going to knock his numbers down, hopefully, and Doug Jones wins. But if Doug Jones doesn't win, it doesn't matter. We're not going to seat him. We're just going to expel him from the Senate. So heads I win, tails you lose. Why don't you let the voters decide? Aren't the voters the judge and jury in this? Look how quick they are to overturn the will of the people, to overturn democracy, and to overturn an election if they fear the man and his messenger. Because if they really gave a damn about sexual assault, sexual predators, they would have voted for the impeachment of Bill Clinton so freaking fast your head would spin. Or Elliot Spitzer, or Ted Kennedy, or I could go on and on and on with all of these Democrats. You see, Ted Kennedy, he was good enough for the Senate. Hillary Clinton, she's good enough for the Senate. Bill Clinton, he was good enough to be president. Roy Moore, come on, that country bumpkin? No way. That Alabama redneck, quote unquote? Not in our Senate. No. He's not our kind of people. Paul in Newberry. Go ahead, Paul.
First, let me start off by saying I'm sorry for your loss, really. And
thank you. Thank you very much, Paul.
I've been traveling to Alabama for many years, and like the people of America are starting to waken up. The people of Alabama are seeing right through this. It's not bad enough that Mitch the Squish is in on this, but once Mitt the Twit Romney opens his mouth again, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, this is a bad job." We don't buy this. It's the same. What happened to all the accusers of Trump when he was just about to win the election? Where did they go?
Paul, so you think you honestly believe that this smear campaign, this defamation, is not going to work?
I don't think the people of Alabama will buy it. Otherwise, Luther Strange would be the candidate right now, not Roy Moore.
Paul, thank you for that call. Why should they buy it? Look how obvious this is. You have 76 days before you can throw in a new candidate. They wait till several days after the 76 days. And then, boom, they come out with this garbage story. And then all of a sudden, the garbage story hits. Then the Democrats call for Roy Moore to step aside. Then the Republicans call for Roy Moore to step aside. Shazam. How to steal an election by the establishment 101. I hope the people of Alabama see through this and say, you know what? Blank us. No. Blank you.
But you're in favor of starting the expulsion process potentially if he is elected.
That's one way we could do it, but the other way is for the people of Alabama to look at these two candidates. And yes, I have faith that they're going to look at what happened in these allegations and the fact that there's 30 witnesses and make a decision on someone else.
124 here on the great WRKO. Okay, you can text us at 680-680. The Kuhner Country poll question of the day. Should Judge Moore step aside? It's sponsored by Bill Kelly Financial Services. If you believe the answer is yes, and Mitch McConnell is now called for Roy Moore to do just that, as has Mitt Romney, John McCain, John Kasich, the entire Republican establishment, text the letter A to 680-680. If you believe the answer is no, this is a witch hunt and a despicable smear campaign to push an honest, independent conservative out, text the letter B to 680-680. As always, you can vote online at WRKO.com. Brittany, what are the poll results thus far?
86% no, 14% yes.
Jerry on the Cape. Go ahead, Jerry.
Jeff, good afternoon. Thanks for taking the call.
My pleasure.
Jeff, this is about more. It's everything that you and all the callers have spoken about, but it's more than that. This is about Christianity. He is a strong Christian. The Ten Commandments. He does not believe in gay marriage, although he said he wouldn't preside over one. It's still a law of the land. He doesn't believe in transgenderism. And what about the elite's hatred for Christianity, Jeff? He's a truth seeker. But they fear two things here. They fear if he's elected, he will align himself with the president on issues. And they fear if he's elected, Jeff, he will strike a chord and awaken Christians nationwide. Their big fear, Jeff, we know this, they want the destruction of Christianity.
Jerry, you're dead on. And he's not just a Christian, he's a nationalist. See, this is the thing that makes him so dangerous. He is a Christian, he is a patriot, and he's a constitutionalist. And those are the three things you cannot have in Washington, D.C. In other words, he can't be massaged. He can't be controlled. He can't be bought off. And that's why the entire Washington cartel wants to destroy this man. And to me, what I find chilling is an unsubstantiated allegation can now destroy an entire man's career. Just think of the precedent now that we're setting. And number two, you're going to nullify an election? Now they're openly saying, they're even admitting it. Well, either you vote for Doug Jones, the opponent, or if Roy Moore manages to win this, we're not going to let the country bumpkins have their say. No. We're going to expel him from the Senate, so he's never going to sit in the U.S. Senate. So in other words, what they're saying is elections don't matter. Either you rubber stamp the guy that we want, and if you won't do it, then doggone it, we're just going to kick him out through a bogus investigation, a kangaroo court. Are we living in America? Or are we living in some kind of a kleptocracy and a dictatorship? John in Needham. Go ahead, John.
How are you, Jeff? Long time.
Welcome, John.
I don't know who has, you know how to say about liberals, it's a mental disorder. I don't know who has more of a mental disorder, the liberals or the Republicans in Washington, D.C. I'm serious. This is like absolutely out of some weird movie, you know? And I'm wondering if we did the same thing, dug up a bunch of girls on their candidates, do you think those girls would be destroyed in about 2 seconds, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it wouldn't work. But they are now getting away with, we will never win another election as far as I'm concerned, at all. They'll find a way to smear our guys. We'll let them get away with this. it's all over.
Oh,
But
you
anyway,
nailed it. Look, John, I said it half jokingly, and thank you for that call, but I'm half serious. Look, really, to the rhinos, the Boston Herald, to the libs, the Moonbats, the Boston Globe, guys, take your pick. Find some woman in an alley, I'm not kidding, pay her a couple $100 or give her some opiates or fentanyl or whatever, really, and just say, Jeff Kuhner sexually assaulted me. That's it. Just say it. Bullshit. Just BS. Just BS it. Okay? Just BS it. Hope you dumped that there, Brittany. Just BS it. And that's it. And I'm gone. Everybody will say, oh, Jeff Kuhner's got to go. Just got to go. It's a witch hunt mentality. And notice, they now get to control everything. They control the agenda. They control the terms. They control who leaves and who doesn't leave, who can be forgiven and who can't be forgiven. No, liberalism is not just a mental disorder. It's a cult. It's a cult. And the dear leader and Hillary Clinton, they're like the popes. They preside over the church. And they decide who's a heretic and who's not, who's acceptable and who's not. But never forget what I've said. Never forget this. The first liberal was Lucifer. The first rhino was Judas. The rhinos always stab you in the back. The only question is, for how much? For Judas, it was 30 pieces of silver. For Mitch McConnell, it could be a $13 million lobbying contract. Whatever it is, they love to sell their own right down the river. Okay, Trump is scheduled to make a big announcement on North Korea later this week. Evan Heidenrich has the latest. Take it away, Evan. 137 here on the great WRKO. Okay, lines are loaded. I'm going to continue to take your call, 617-266-6868. But first, there is an immensely important issue facing the citizens, voters, and taxpayers of Massachusetts. I would be remiss if I did not draw your attention to it one more time. It was front page Boston Globe yesterday. It is now prominent in the Globe as well today. The decision has been reversed by Cardinal Sean O'Malley. He now will allow parishioners coming out of church to sign a petition to ban state-funded or taxpayer-funded abortions here in Massachusetts. There is a petition drive, a campaign now underway to put it up on a ballot to ask you, the voters and taxpayers, whether your money should continue to go to fund abortions. Whether you're pro-life, whether you're pro-choice, wherever you stand on this issue. To me, this is more than a morality issue. It's a fiscal economic issue. Why should your hard-earned taxpayer dollars go to pay for someone else's abortion? This has been the law of the land in Massachusetts for decades. It is to me nothing more than another cash grab and a power grab from you, the taxpayers of the state. And I think this violation now needs to end. And joining me now is one of the men who is spearheading this campaign. You know him and you love him, State Representative Jim Lyons. Jim, thank you so much for coming back on the Kuhner Report.
Jeff, thanks so much for having me, and I really appreciate this last-minute announcement that you're making. We're very close to reaching our goal, but we do need people to help us in this stretch run. We basically have 10 days left to get signatures and to get them to the local town clerk. So if all of your listeners could help us get 5 or 10 signatures, every single signature matters. And we have a website, Stop Tax Funded Abortion. People can go right to the website and download the petition, sign it, and mail it back to us. The instructions on how to do it are right on the website. So, if you can really encourage people this week, we're really close. The response out in the streets has been really quite remarkable. The people, as you point out, this is not an issue of about the abortion issue itself. This is about a federal judge deciding how the taxpayers should spend the money. and we don't believe they should be spending money for the intentional and willful destruction of an unborn child.
Can you just give out the full address again, please, Jim?
Stop tax-funded abortion in Massachusetts. That's the address. If they Google it, if they put that in their web browser, that'll bring it right to them.
Okay, so stop taxpayer-funded abortion in Massachusetts.
Correct.
Okay. Jim, the Boston Globe, I saw you obviously interviewed in it in Sunday's paper. There was another big follow-up piece today. The liberals at the Globe are very alarmed that this petition drive may get the necessary signatures, and I think they fear if it goes to the ballot, they will lose. And so the argument now that they're trying to make is this, and I want to give you a chance to rebut it. They're saying that what this is injecting politics into the church. That what this is breaking the line of separation between church and state. And so why, say you as a Catholic, myself as a Catholic, why should we care about taxpayer funding of abortion? And why should parishioners be signing petitions outside of the church? The church has no business getting involved in politics. This is a violation of separation of church and state. What do you say to that argument?
I mean, this is nothing more than legislating from the bench. The judicial court, Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, ruled that this was a right, and that something had to be, that the people of Massachusetts are being forced to use their tax dollars to pay for abortion. Our position is that right belongs in the hands of the legislature. It does not belong in the judiciary. So if there's a separation of anything that needs to be put in place, it's a separation between the judicial branch and the legislative branch, because what the Supreme Court did in 1981 was overturn a law that was in place and made that the law of Massachusetts and required Medicaid to force the taxpayers to pay for abortion. That's what they did. The separation of powers is the issue, not the separation of church and state. We have absolutely a responsibility as a legislature to determine how our tax dollars are being spent. That's what we ought to be doing. Leave it up to the legislature. What's the next thing that they're going to tell us that they want us to do? This bill, this law has stayed on the books since 1981, basically because nobody's challenged it. We've brought it to the people. The response has been overwhelming, and we want to get it to the vote and let the people decide.
Bill, can you? Jim, can you give the website again one more time, please?
Stop tax-funded abortions in Massachusetts.
Stop tax-funded abortions in Massachusetts. Just Google that or put that in your web browser, and it'll take you right to the website. Right,
and I can't emphasize enough, what we need to do is get every single person, their signature, 2, 3, 4 signatures, they all matter. We need every single signature to get this, because as you know, it is ultimately going to come down to people looking at the signatures, and we need to build in a buffer zone so we have plenty of extra signatures so we do make it to the ballot. So it is extremely important these last 10 days. We urge all of the folks in Kuhner country, you can send me an email, repjimlyons@gmail.com. We'll get you papers. We'll send you a PDF form. Anything that they can do to get the form in front of them and then get them back to us, and we'll bring them to the local town clerks.
Jim, we're up against it in time, but I want to ask you one final question. You're a good Catholic, as am I. The Catholic Catechism, church doctrine, is crystal clear on this, that abortion is murder. It is the murder of an unborn baby in the womb of the mother. What I find absolutely unconscionable, and of course people of goodwill can disagree, no question about it, but what I find unconscionable is that the Moonbats, the radical left in this state, want to compel you, me, and everybody of faith to subsidize with our tax dollars a practice that is infanticide, in our view, that is an absolute moral abomination and a violation of our conscience rights. How do moonbats, in all honesty, how do they, in good honesty, how do they support coercing people to fund practices that violate the central tenets of their faith and their moral code?
I think you can even take it more to the next level even and say Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 112, Section 12K defines abortion as the willful and intentional destruction of an unborn child. Why should we be forced to pay for that? This issue crosses not only Catholics, this goes all across the political spectrum. Being forced by judges to put our money behind something that is the destruction of an unborn child. It's absolutely incredible.
We have been talking with State Representative Jim Lyons, one of the good guys up on Beacon Hill. Jim, do me one last favor. Please give out that address one more time. I want to drive as many people as possible to the website.
Stop tax abortions in Massachusetts.
Stop tax-funded abortions in Massachusetts. Just put it in Google it or Yahoo it or whatever. Put it in your web browser. It will take you right there. Please, if you can, put your name to that petition. Sign. If you can, volunteer to collect signatures. We're almost there. We need to put it over the top. Let the people decide. It's your money. We don't have money for roads. We don't have money for bridges. We don't have money for basic social services. But we've got money to allow people to have abortions paid for by you and me. It's your money. Enough is enough. Jim, keep up the good fight, and we'll talk soon, buddy.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Tom on the South Shore. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, Jeff, thanks. Good work by O'Malley and Lyons. She's doing God's work. But 3 key points on Judge Moore, if I could.
Yes.
I'll just make them quickly and hang up, Jeff. Number one is he has to fight, and we have to give him money, and we have to support him, because if he goes down, all the other nationalist conservatives are going to go down. This is an intimidation smear campaign, and it may intimidate others from not running to support the Trump agenda. Number 2, the real collusion, in addition to Democrats and Russians, is between the tech giants and the multinationals, the left and the rhinos. They're all trying to protect their turf and support each other, and we've got to defeat them as well. We're going to be in big trouble, and I know Roy Moore stands for that. And number 3, Jeff, the leftists stick together no matter what. Look at Mendez. Look at Kennedy. Look at Clinton. You made the point earlier. But you don't find anybody in the left going against their agenda. There's no such thing as a dino. But, man, do we have a lot of rhinos, and I'm sick of them. We got to support Roy Moore, and I'll stop there, Jeff. Thank you.
Tom, I couldn't have said it better myself. Really, bang, bang, bang. Perfect. And you're right. There are no dinos, but there's a lot of rhinos. And, you know, I mean, I hate to say this, but they're crucifying Judge Roy Moore the way they crucified Christ. I mean, what you're now seeing is a public crucifixion. This is a lynching. This is a political lynching. And this man has been in the public eye in Alabama. I don't want to repeat myself, but this bears repeating. He has been the most prominent, in some ways polarizing, but prominent figure in Alabama for 4 decades. 4 decades. 4 weeks before an election? Shazam? You pull a rabbit out of a hat? And you now tell me that this 14, allegedly when she was 14, he touched her inappropriately, fondled her inappropriately. Now he's suddenly an alleged pedophile? After she's accused how many other pastors? Drug addict at the time? Alcoholic at the time? Promiscuous at the time? Come on. Come on. If you believe that, I've got some swampland in Florida you may be interested in. Mike in Newton. Go ahead, Mike.
Jeff, I look at it. These people that are opposing this guy Moore are no better than vigilantes. Remember the old Westerns when they grabbed the suspect and they put him in the sheriff's office, but the vigilantes came with their torches and their rope, and they said, give us that man. And the sheriff came out and said, but he hasn't had a trial. We don't care. We're gonna lynch him. That's all these people are, modern day vigilantes. And I have to say it, Jeff. Your last caller summed up the reason why this guy's gonna go down. The high-tech giants, the inside track at Washington, and the ultra-left communist, Marxist haters of the world. That's why he's going down. It's insurmountable. He can't fight them.
Mike, thank you for that call. Look, he's got the people behind him. And this is, you want to talk about a classic example of the people versus the elites? This is it. I stand with Roy Moore. Do you? 155 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends, so I think maybe Judge Moore should take a page out of George Takei. So as you know, the former Star Trek actor, George Takei, came out as gay many years ago. He's a big leader in the LGBTQ community. Well, he's also been swept up in all of these Hollywood sex abuse scandal allegations. And so, as you know, somebody, a former male model, told the Hollywood Reporter that George Takei, when he was in his mid-40s, this model was, 22, 23, he says that they had dinner together, and then George Takei decided to take this model, Scott Brunton, back to his L.A. condo for a couple of drinks. And Scott Brunton says he had 2 drinks and then began to feel dizzy. He says almost as if George Takei put something in his drink, spiked his drink. And he says after he began to feel dizzy, he kind of collapsed on the couch, and he says that's when George Takei went in and, how do I say, start to feel him up a little bit. Well, George Takei is got a unique explanation for why this story has become so big and so popular. The Russians are behind it. I swear. Takei went to Twitter and said this is all Russian propaganda. He's blaming Putin, saying that these Russian bots, hackers, are the ones that are spreading this story all over the internet to discredit George Takei. So unlike, let's say, Louis C.K., who admitted what he did, or others who go to sex rehab, he's not going to sex rehab, and he's not really admitting it. He's just blaming the Russians. So Putin did it. So here's my advice to Roy Moore. He should hold a press conference and say, the Russians are behind all of these allegations. It's Putin who's to blame. 617-266-6868. I don't know, maybe George Takei is thinking of Chekhov. Maybe Chekhov, remember they used to sit beside each other on the Star Trek set? Maybe he thinks Chekhov is the guy that's really directing all of this. I swear, you couldn't make this stuff up. Larry in Belmont. Go ahead, Larry.
Good afternoon, Jeff. I got 2 names for you.
Yes.
L. Judge Bork and Judge Thomas.
Yes.
They tried it on both of them.
Yes.
It worked on one. It didn't work on another. My question is, we've seen this for over 30 years. They came up with the term, he got borked. When are we going to smarten up?
Larry, I think you're dead on. And notice the power of the mainstream media. One report, one allegation unproven, and the presumption of innocence is thrown out the window. I thought you're innocent until proven guilty in this country. And look how the Republicans cave to one report from the Washington Compost. One report. It shows you the bubble that they live in. Jeremy in Boston. Go ahead, Jeremy.
You're pressing me about George Takei. If I had been the kid in that apartment, I just would have screamed, "Beam me up, Scotty! Get me out of here!" Get your hands off my Klingons. Okay. He attempted to boldly go where no man's gone before. All right. Anyway, seriously, this opponent of Judge Moore is Doug Jones. Is that his name?
Yes.
Let's challenge the Washington Post to look into his past.
I'm with you.
You know, for instance, Elizabeth Warren, the chief Thundercloud, who has for years been talking against sexual harassment, sexual mistreatment. When she ran for the Senate, who came to Boston and endorsed her? William Jefferson Clinton.
Jeremy, don't be a stranger. Call again, my friend. Okay, everybody stay tuned. Roy Moore is reacting to Mitch McConnell. Evan has the latest. We'll be back after this short news break.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 2 o'clock.